Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Please reach out to me directly. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com for pricing. Today, we're discussing a lovely white gold Rolex Oyster Perpetual Cosmograph Daytona reference 116509. 40 millimeters in diameter, the watch measures 12.4 millimeters thick from lug tip to lug tip, 48 millimeters. If you include the end links, the total distance across the wrist is 52.1 millimeters, and the space between the lugs is 20 millimeters. Now, throwing the watch on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters circumference, you can see it wears well. The heft of it is impressive. Gold Rolex watches feel like platinum, and steel Rolex watches feel like gold. There's just something about the solidity of them that's impressive. The timepiece is flat enough to fit underneath the dress cuff, so if you want to wear it as a suit watch, you can absolutely do that. It's also suitable for women, as I found a lot of ladies can wear these modern Daytonas with no problem, even with the broader solid end links. The timepiece has a bracelet that is Rolex's Oyster 3-link design. You can see it has a conforming end piece to better join the bracelet to the case without a gap or any kind of unsightly asymmetry. It's beautifully integrated. There's a taper to the bracelet. It's polished outboard. It has satin shoulders. It has polished center links. Removable links are fixed by screws, and you can see that on both sides. We have a double locking clasp, which you can see has double finish as well, a combination of polish and satin. There's a little beak and a hook system, a hinged lift lock. That locks shut. That's actually a spring-loaded release. You need to pull the tab to unlock it. So that's one lock. That's a second lock. And then you have a little curve to dig your nail in and pull that little crown lock open. Easy to do. We also have internally the Easy Link system. So 5 millimeters in and out, tool-free adjustment to fine-tune the fit, and then there are 3 divots drilled inside the clasp, so you can use your strap tool to pop the spring bar and change the anchoring point of the bracelet inside the clasp. So 3 separate ways to size this watch for your wrist. Snapping it all shut, taking a look at the case, it is a graceful case. It is not the squared-off, sheer-sided super case associated with some of the more aggressive sports watches. This one actually has more in common with the Yachtmaster than any other Rolex model. Now, about the metal used, it is white gold, but it's what's known as gray gold, which is to say it is white gold that's white all the way through and never needs to be plated. A lot of cheaper white golds are plated generally with some sort of rhodium or palladium, and the result is a watch that looks bright white like platinum, but scratches to show another material underneath and has to be replated later on during service. This never does need to. Rolex makes its own cases, it makes its own bracelets and clasps, it has its own foundry, and it makes its own alloys. That's why it uses gray gold instead of conventional, cheaper plated white gold. The bezel features a tachymeter scale. You can see the bezel is beautifully intact, never refinished, and that the watch includes a 400 unit calibrated units per hour tack bezel. So that can be used to gauge the speed of a race car over a closed course, typically a kilometer. The dial is what's known as the steel metallic sunburst dial. So this color is often described as steel, and it is darker than silver, that's for sure. The hands, the crown, and the indices are all white gold to prevent oxidation and tarnish over time. And you can see that the sub-registers are black for a nice subtle tone-on-tone black on steel. Each sub-register has a polished chaptering to add a little bit more upscale gleam and glimmer. Taking a quick look, you can see it uses Rolex's blue chromolite lume. Yes, Rolex makes its own lume. And the movement inside is Rolex's own movement, caliber 4130. It debuted on the Daytona back in 2000. Bidirectional automatic winding, 72-hour power reserve. It has a lot of interesting features. For shock resistance, it has a winding rotor bearing, and it also has a full balance bridge with a free sprung balance for toughness. Why is a winding rotor bearing interesting? Because previous Rolex automatics used a jeweled staff that was a bit more susceptible to shock. Now, the movement pits on 44 joules, beats away at 8 beats per second. There is a hacking or stop seconds function. It is a certified chronometer. Rolex then takes that certified chronometer movement, cases it up, and tests it in 6 positions, so it runs no worse than -2 +2 seconds per 24 hours before it leaves the factory as a completed watch. That is the basis for their term superlative chronometer in the modern era. Now, the watch also includes a vertical clutch and column wheel tandem, so the vertical clutch engages and there's no seams So unlike a lateral clutch, there's no jump or stagger to the seconds hand when you start and stop. It just begins seamlessly. And because of the vertical clutch, you can leave it running full time if you wish, no additional hazard wear and tear to the movement. The column wheel makes for a crisp, positive feel. It also sounds sharp with a crisp report as you operate and cycle the functions. Now, the watch also has an overcoil hairspring Breguet overcoil made by hand, so in pretty much any position, because of the centered mass of the overcoil, the watch is going to keep even and consistent time, and that overcoil is made of a blue oxidized niobium zirconium that is oxidized to prevent further deterioration and to preserve that hugely anti-magnetic alloy that Rolex calls parachrome blue. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details. Among its many, many virtues, thanks to screw-down crowns and pushers, this watch, which you can own today, has 100-meter water resistance. It is truly the surf and turf sports watch for Daytona International Speedway or Daytona Beach.